Okay. Hi, this is SJ Duelist. I'm here with Direwolf. Say hi, Direwolf.
Hello.
And I'm here with a bunch of other secret people. Say hi, everybody else.
Howdy, howdy.
Hi.
Hello.
No longer
What was
secret
that?
people.
On November 14th at 1830 UTC, after a bit of a break, we are going to be doing a 3v3 tournament. I am working with the top experts in the Living Legends field to make it a fun time. If you want to participate, look around at all the different places. One easy place to go is mekmaster.com, the Living Legends Discord. You can search around. You can also just click on the video link here at the show notes in the bottom for the info. 3v3 tournament is a single life battle where we have small to medium-sized maps. The teams organize via TeamSpeak voice communications, and they play each other. There's a way that we try to rank the teams and have a bracket. This year's format we'll get to in a little bit, but we figured that for our good listeners that we will open up with the maps. Direwolf, how many maps are roughly in the rotation this time around?
Right, so as of now, the rotation has 22 maps.
All right, and that's quite a bit than before, Direwolf. How many did we used to have?
God, I can't remember. I think we only had like 7 maps we
Right.
regularly use.
And what was the purpose of us expanding the map rotation this time?
Well, the idea is, again, this is still, again, there are still things that are subject to internal
Changing.
discussion. And
Yes,
so
this
don't,
is
yeah,
all
so
a
don't hold us to
preview.
this.
Don't hold us to any of this
Yeah,
yet.
the idea is that the overall map rotation can be narrowed down very significantly on the actual day of. So part of it is through this thing, which is like kind of a stage striking system. Some people might be familiar with this from some fighting games.
Yep, which we'll get to in a
The
few
idea
minutes.
being that, the idea basically being that the two teams can choose like which stages they don't want to play on. Like the actual, like also during the day of, like the map rotation might not include every single map. The idea would be that like these are maps that people know about. Like this is public. People can realize like, oh, this is a. It's mostly kind of like a way of checking our work, like saying, oh, this is a map that has some really silly tactical or strategic thing that
Mhm.
will make it unfair or asymmetrical. Or this might be a really good map to have if that like I would want to play in a 3v3. And then there'd be a smaller rotation, like maybe like 8 maps or something. And then both teams can keep striking maps they don't want to play on until they eventually choose one, and then keep going back and forth like during the match. It probably makes more sense if I like explain like a sample scenario.
Mhm.
I can probably make one of those up if that's already the list.
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah.
That's a good segue. We're gonna move into Direwolf's proposed system here that he's been working with me on, and then we'll get into the individual maps in our next segment after that. Direwolf, the mic's yours.
All right. Cool. So just the idea being that like you have a relatively small rotation, and how you decide which maps to play on is up to the two teams. It's not like fixed. In the old 3v3, there would be like a like for a given round, it would just be like, okay, you're going to play this map with this CPL restriction, and you play then the next map with the next CPL restriction, etc. And that's all fixed by the organizer. Through here, we would give the teams a lot more freedom to choose what they want to play on and how they want to play it. So the idea would be, say, let's have Team A and Team B. Uh, Team A wins a coin flip. Say like the small rotation is like 5 maps or 6 maps. It'd probably be a little bit larger. But yeah, Team A wins a coin flip, and then they decide, okay, I don't want to play on this map. Like, say it's T-Rift, Forest Valley, I don't know, TSA Carbon, and TSA Forsaken. That's 4 maps, but anyway, let's go with 4 because that's the easiest way to talk about this. So say Team A, they win a coin flip, and they decide, okay, we don't want to play on Forsaken because maybe say they like playing on longer range maps. Team B decides that, well, I don't like playing on short range maps so much, so I'm gonna ban 2 other stages. Or in this case, like, okay, yeah, actually, I need to expand this example to 5. But to make sense, the point being the person who wins the coin flip gets to eventually choose the stage. But you do this by one person banning one stage, one banning two, and then the other one banning the last one, so they can effectively choose what the stage is. But the point is that both teams have some input in what stage is chosen. So if it's say Forsaken, T-Rift, Carbon, Forest Valley, and one other map that I've already. But yeah, first one decides they don't want to play close range maps, so they strike their least favorite close range map, Forsaken. The other one decides that they want to play on only on shorter range maps, so they ban Forest Valley and Carbon because those have like longer range skirmishy things. Then the first team is like, well, okay, let's find something in the middle, and then of the 2 remaining maps, they choose one less to strike, and then the first match is played on that particular map. It's a little bit confusing when I say it out loud. It makes more sense if you like have a list in front of you and you can see that like, oh, somebody has struck this list, somebody has struck this particular map, and these are the remaining ones. And for the remaining matches, like the overall list of maps that you have available would be larger than the number of matches needed to win a set. So you could still like every match would be different. You could choose different types of like you can't always choose the maps you want to choose like specifically. It would still be like kind of a theme of maps that are similar. This way, like it forces you to kind of be on like sometimes you'll have like an opportunity to work on stuff that really works in your favor. Other times you won't. It's its own little kind of metagame. It makes more sense like if there's a specific example that you can have like one person who is like if you had like 2 people like Mock working to do ban through a list, it makes sense. But hopefully this sort of general description is enough.
All right.
Complicated, yes.
All right.
This is all going to be on spreadsheets, so it'll be a lot more straightforward once you see what's going on.
Yep.
All right. Let's Direwolf, you have the map list in front of you in the TeamSpeak chat, right?
Yep. There are a lot, so probably going through each individual one would be a little bit much. We can talk about general themes.
Let's try a very short. You and I are going to be commanders. Yeah. Let's take the first 7 or 8 maps there, okay?
Sure.
And Direwolf, walk me through it if I make mistakes. All right, Direwolf, I'm going to go first. Direwolf, yep. I strike TC Dune.
Right. Okay, so the idea is that let's say that's just 5 because this is the easiest one. The whole list here that's in front of me is Dune, Forsaken, Inferno, Mirage, Stone Rose. Duelist has banned Dune. And it's like because he doesn't like Dune. He just thinks that map sucks or whatever. So then I decide, well, okay, I want to still play on a map that's somewhat mid-ranged, and okay, I don't want to play on like a super short-range one or a super long-range one. So I decide to ban Stone Rose and Forsaken, which leaves only 2 maps left, Inferno and Mirage.
I don't want to deal with all the corridors of Mirage, so I strike Mirage.
Yep, leaving Inferno to be the first map. So that's the first map of the set. And then say that now we played the match, and Duelist has won. So that we still have like this rotation of Dune, Forsaken, Mirage, Stone Rose, Inferno. But since Inferno has already been played, like that can no longer be chosen. So we'll just do this sort of thing again, but because Duelist won, I get to choose a map that I don't want to play on. So I decide, okay, I don't want to play on, I've had enough of weird heat or hot maps, so I strike Forsaken.
I strike Stone Rose. I don't want to deal with the center area.
Yeah. Which leaves just Mirage and Dune left over. And because I lost, I get to decide which map I want to play on. That being, in this case, I want to play on Dune.
So
we end up playing on Forsaken.
And we'll get into the round robin format in a little bit, but basically we do that. It's a nice, simple way to provide some agency. It makes things fresh. It doesn't add a lot of complexity to it, and it prevents the thing that I've heard from a lot of the teams in the past 3v3s. Duelist, we pre-made our lists 3 weeks ahead, and we're going to use the same lists through the rounds. And so with what we're going to be announcing here in a minute, those two things kind of combined. It's an interesting system. Dyer and I have been talking about it, and we're still refining it a little bit, but it looks good, and I'm excited to have that as part of our focus. Now, moving to our next section, announcing the individual maps, we'll announce a map real quick, and we'll take commentary from anybody that would like to chime in on it for a little bit. So we've gone through and we've chosen popular maps and unpopular maps even, but we've gone through and thought about this and vetted. In the previous tournaments, we had specifically made Solaris Arena free-for-all games that were converted over to being able to be played by teams. but we've held the 3v3 has been held, I think, 4 times now. So after a while, we have to open up our map rotations. So here we go. TC Dune, stock map, sand, allows medium open gameplay, pretty popular. Any thoughts on that map, guys?
It's one of my favorites. I think it's really good for it's really dynamic. You can play super long range if you want to, but still tends to get you opened up. There's a lot of places where you can break line of sight. I think most commonly it's probably like a mid to short range. Actually, you can play it more like if you stay very heavily in like 700-meter range, or if you want to close a little bit more, you can afford to, because you can use buildings in the center for cover.
All right.
Risky, but it's possible.
Our next map is TC Forsaken. Small, one of the smallest terrain control maps. Very hot, but it has some interesting sight lines, and you can force pretty close range fights at center. This was chosen over TSA Mirage because, well, TSA over TSA Forsaken. TSA Forsaken is an interesting map, but it doesn't look big, but it plays big, so it's not possible to see TSA Forsaken, but for the moment, TSA Forsaken. Any thoughts on that map?
Low visibility means the sensors are worth a lot. Mostly short range also, because you can't really usually see people at long range, and if you do, they can break contact with lots of rock formations and things like that.
Next up, we have TC Inferno, an extremely hot map, stock map, allows for wide open gameplay if you choose your sight lines, but you can also camp at the center and do short range. Thoughts on this one?
Yep. Oftentimes it turns into, either one of the two things you mentioned. It's either somebody finds a good spot and they try and snipe people before they can get close, or they just run to mid and the areas around mid, and it's whoever happens to brawl best. Of course, because everything's so hot, it usually means that it screws up what people tend to take for short range stuff. Just throws them out of their comfort zone. It's a good time.
Next up, we have TSA Mirage, stock map. Lots of nice corridors, and if you know the secret way to get up top, it can turn into a very long game. Thoughts on this one?
Really dynamic map. I like it for jump jets. Anything that involves like lots of mobility. You can play it a really long way, but most of the time, like, it doesn't really work out so well. If you have because there aren't like super long sight lines most of the time, like you can always get out, like somebody can just out trade you if they have better long range, better like 800, 900 meter kind of firepower. Tends to just be like for the most part, it ends up being super mobile. It's just two teams that are moving around all the hills and buildings. They run into each other, and then it's whoever happens to be brawling best.
Next up, TC Stone Rose, another stock map. Thoughts on this?
Real big. It's good for if you want to do extreme range play. Tends to have people sitting on the outsides a lot, but it does force all sorts of interesting kinds of trades and positioning questions.
Next up, we have TSA Ice Arena. A custom map didn't get into rotations until pretty late in the organized gameplay, but it can be interesting, Dyer.
Yep. Has a lot of different variable sightlines, and it's cold. Most of the cold maps that are around here are like pretty short range, with a few exceptions.
TSA Clear Cut, the default training map for a number of years. Trees, Direwolf, what else?
Lots of trees, which is just horrible. But it has a lot of wide open sightlines. It's not a really huge map. You can play it at extreme range, and probably with small player counts, it might be possible. But most of the time, like, you can move around the sides, stay mid-range.
TSA Extremity up next. What's the fancy feature on this map?
The name? Heat changes very rapidly. There's like 2 periods. One of which is, I can't remember the ambient temperature number, but it's like, I think 125 ambient. But there's also kind of low dissipation. Just overheats your mech very quickly if you have anything that's hot. Or it really heats spiky. Plenty of your PVCs are hard to use. And the other is the complete opposite, where it's like negative 125 or negative 150 or something. External temperature, where you can use everything with no problems. So the question of how you build your list. Do you want to fight in the day or during the evening?
Next up, we have TSA Frostbite. Thoughts on that?
Big cold map. It can play interestingly because there's like a lot of hills and buildings you have to fight around. kind of a matter of who spots each other first and where you happen to be.
Next up, one from the 3v3s, TSA Glory. Thoughts there?
Base smash, good. Lots of building, lots of hills, very short sight lines.
We're
for tanks.
We're halfway through. Any thoughts on any of these maps from the gallery?
Glory's a favorite. That one's always a blast.
Yes. I miss playing on that. Just anything else on the list, I think. I would say that TSA Extremity and TSC Extremity are different. I'm kind of curious to see how the two might play differently.
Next up, we have TSA Hell's Gate. Again, another one from the old tournaments. Thoughts here?
Laser Boat Heaven. Or Streak Heaven, really. Very, very short sight lines, bit of fog, very cold. So it's often turns into either a question of putting all the heavy lasers and all the high alpha clan laser boats together, or just dumping a ton of streaks together or SRMs together in order to counter the energy boat memes. Very mobile though. Big face smash, big like.
Next up, my favorite map in the entire tournament, TSA Jungle. I almost feel it doesn't need an introduction at this point. 3 of the 4 championships have been held on that. What makes this map so dynamic?
It's joy. It has a lot of long sight lines. You can play it in a bunch of ways, is the thing. There are a few very long sight lines, but they're in pretty predictable positions. So you usually teams either kind of sit on the hills and then just kind of try to press people, or other teams try and move mobile through all the rolling hills, through the trees, that sort of thing. So it's either trading or run into each other and smash.
I would have to say this next map needs almost no introduction. A anonymous member of my unit used to love the living hell out of this map for undisclosed reasons. Tell us about TSA Acid KOTH.
Oh, am I supposed to do this, or is this for the person from your unit in question?
Not a fan.
Silly map. Funny map. There's a very large hill in the middle, King of the Hill, and you have to go up through this sort of spiraling ramp. You get the top, very, very small space. It does give you really nice sightlines on the whole map, but it also means that you basically commit yourself to engaging people at either extremely long range, by training there, or at 50 meters basically for somebody else who comes up the ramp. Spooky time.
And I think it's purple, something like that.
It's very purple, yes.
All right,
it's an acid trip.
Next up, needs no introduction, an old Vitos map, TSA Forest Valley. Some interesting things have happened on that map over the years. What keeps it in the rotation, Dyer?
I think it's probably it's one of my favorite maps for 3v3s. It's really huge, and it has some things that are really kind of questionable about it. There's a part of it where there's just really cursed terrain that occasionally can get tanks totally stuck. But the thing that's interesting is that there's very, very long sightlines in some places, but realistically it's hard to maintain those sightlines. You just kind of sit there. Usually you can use the big structure in the center of the map to line of sight in close distance a little bit, or you can use the hills on the outskirts. It's just all about trading, really. Controlling your exposure, figuring out where you want to move. Strategic.
All right. Next up, we have TC Frontlines. Oh, I've had good matches. I've had bad matches in TC, but how does this play in a 3v3?
Honestly, I don't think I've ever played it in a 3v3. I'm kind of curious how it would turn out, because
is Frontlines the super small one?
No, that one. This one has a lot of indestructible trees. It has a river going through the middle. It has a map prop where it's a Hag 9000 Mad Cat or whatever. It's just a map with really gigantic. Yeah.
That's super dark in the beginning, isn't it?
It does have a day-night cycle. It's pretty dynamic. The main problem is that you just can't use tanks there. It's really not. I mean, you kind of can, but there's very few places where you can do so safely. Probably really good if you have jump jets or something mobile and something with good sensors, so you can stay low and still see where people are.
Next up,
Or it might be good if you sit like on a hill somewhere, just with really good sight lines, so you don't have to deal with any of it.
next up is another Vidos map, TC New Avalon, green. What else?
Very green, rolling hills. That basically describes everything. Lots of long sight lines. Best you probably can make it into like a closer medium range kind of deal if you like leverage speed and use the hills in certain parts near the middle. But still, probably going to end up being a lot about long range trading.
Train control's tough enough on it. It'll be interesting to see how it rolls out in the tournament. All right, next up, we just played this one today, TSA Solaris A. How does this one work out?
It's a funny map. There's not much else. There's a few other ways to describe it. Like it can be either fought at long range, medium range, or short. There's a lot of like terrain in the center, which a lot of people tend to just kind of circle around. They don't really want to get caught up in there. That also means that like people on like some elevated sections around the edge of the map can poke you forever. But also at the very start of the map, you can always see where the other team is, where they spawned, and you can generally get a pretty good idea of what their asset composition is. So you can try and like figure out almost instantly kind of how you want to position and how they want to position. And it's kind of turned into like a sort of a mind game. It's like, okay, they have, Fafnir with X, Y, Z type of armaments. Like, okay, they have a Fafnir Prime, so they want to be fighting at super close range. We're going to try and kite them the whole time. Things like this.
Next up, we have TSA Tunnel. Oh, excuse me, TSA Allshane. Why is this known as TSA Tunnel? There's a tunnel.
I can say I'd never heard the name, but there is a tunnel on that map, and you can do very silly things from it. It can go very badly or very well.
Next up,
there's not much else to say about it.
Next up, we have TSA Carbon. Which came first, the player or the map? I can't remember, but tell us about this purpley space map.
I'm gonna guess the map came first. Really enjoy it. It's low grav, pretty low temperature, if I remember correctly. I can't remember how the dissipation works there. But yeah, low grav, pretty big, long sight lines for the most part. There's lots of hills. It's just mostly, like, if you want to have a list that's all about jump jetting and trading at 800, 900 meters, just like kind of all sorts of like burst mobility options, like this is the place.
Next up, TC Veiled Thunder. I think there's alarm klaxons on one of the things, and if you have it in terrain control mode, you have to go capture the base to stop it. But what else about it?
It's huge. I haven't played on it very much. I've mostly just watched matches there. It's very large, and there's a lot of water, and a lot of hills, and a lot of trees. So I feel like it's probably one of these things where it's like, you either take a list and you sit on a hill, and you try and spot them, like the other team, if they're sitting on a hill, or you take something really fast and then try and blow up their treehouse. But I don't have much experience there, so I can't speak to it that much.
Any comments from the gallery on Veiled Thunder? All right.
Next. I don't think I've ever been on that.
It's an experience, especially.
Isn't Veiled Thunder where you're in like two separate bases? It's cold and their base is certainly getting bombarded.
Yep, like the alarms, the Uziels, the Mechwarrior 2-5 at center.
I have no idea. Okay, I think I'm. Isn't this one that looks kind of like a rainforest though? Has like rivers everywhere.
Nope, it's cold and snowy, and it has a base at center. One base to capture at center, and the four bases around
yes.
it.
Mechwarrior 2 voiceover when you spawn. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. No. I got that all wrong. Whoops. Yeah. Huge, very cold, very long sight lines. Really, really huge, but very interesting.
TSA Badlands up next. I want to say that's an Ivan map. I'm going to have to get back to you guys on that. Tell us about Badlands.
Hills and dust. Very good for long range trading and stuff like that. Also fun for artillery because there's a really big like rock formation in the middle. So, but it's not quite tall enough to disrupt multi shells or arrows, if I remember correctly. Probably not in 3v3s.
Lastly, we have TC Bogs, Lightning, and what else?
Dark, swampy.
Lots of water. Swamp. Mean on tanks.
Yes. There are very specific places where tanks want to fight. Everywhere else, no. You don't want to take Rommels there ever. Really fun. I like the low visibility, I like the darkness.
Any surprises on map choices? Anything that you guys think that we should add in? Anything that you think we should take out? Any comments on the rotation in general from anybody?
Overlord Knight! Overlord Knight!
I was thinking it
Which
the
one is
whole
that?
time.
Which one is that? I'm curious.
It's an Emmy lightsaber design map using Mechwarrior designing the city fight from one of the finales from one of the Mechwarrior 4 games. And it's got the
yes.
palace in the center, and it's really
Best
dark,
map.
trees, and if you take a wrong turn, you have to go a really long way to get through the through the walls if you don't have jump jets. I don't know. Well, you know what? We'll put that on the suggestion list.
Yeah, I don't know how big it is, but it seems. I think I remember this map. There were some really fun sim drops on it. So,
All right. So that's any more comments on maps?
from my end, I think the only ones of these that like I'm a little bit questionable about because of them just being really large or having really strange movement problems is Frontline and Build Thunder.
Mm-hmm.
Build Thunder is really fun, but just like it is really massive.
I know that we already took a few off because it sounded like a good idea, and then we talked about it, and it's like, yeah, that's probably not a good idea. It wasn't as bad as like picking something like
Area 88.
or Mario Kart, but yeah. All right.
Mario Kart sounds hilarious, actually.
We've done serious drops on it before.
I have yet to see that. That sounds really fun.
All right, moving on to the thing that I think is going to get the gallery excited or riled up. We'll see which. The tournament is broken up into 2 weekends, depending on how you want to approach it. It is on the 14th, the main bulk of it. But what we'll get to, actually, I need to add a section below this. So I'm writing. All right, I'll just have to remember that. The first round will be a round robin. So the way that we're going to try and deal with the whole bracketology stuff is, instead of having a bracket, we're going to take our teams. We'll have a really good idea knowing of who's there, and we're going to have the teams there. And we're going to work out the details, but basically the idea is, instead of forcing you to face this team and wait till they're ready and these things, you're going to play every team that shows up. We're going to make a best case effort to let you play each team that shows up on time, and it's going to be a best 2 out of 3. So you'll show up, you'll play best 2 out of 3. We will probably, this is still under consideration, but we will probably have you try to play the third map, even if the result's already decided, because that'll come into the next section that we'll be talking about here in a minute. But basically the idea is that you go through, you battle, and then instead of having to wait for an opponent to get done, you just have to wait for a team to get done. So we'll put everybody through once, and then we'll allow you to come in and play either against either in smaller matches or something with the bracket. And we think that this will be a good solution to some of the issues we've run into. We're still working on a little bit of the details, and Dyer will come on here in a second, probably fix some of that for me, hopefully with some of the details. But basically, it should be fun. We're going to try and make sure you're not waiting around for fights. We're going to try and let everybody play, and also not have it that it's not going to be a single elimination. So if you lose, that's not the end of the road. You can still go in and have fun. So Dyer, take it away with your thoughts and on the end of that.
Yeah. For the most part, I think having like a round robin is going to be a lot more interesting in terms of like everybody being able to fight each other. Brackets can occasionally be finicky, especially if people don't show up when they're supposed to. So the only thing that I think we might probably still be discussing is like who actually will get to be in the round robin. If like, for example, there's like 15 teams that show up or something, might have to figure out like some other changes, or figuring out who actually gets to fight each other on one day, because there probably won't be that many matches. That'll be its own challenge.
Be a good challenge. Any thoughts from the
Right.
gallery so far? Oh,
Like the idea about not being being able to just play whoever.
Yeah.
and,
Yeah, as in bracket can bottleneck, so having a round robin or where everyone is intended to fight each other at some point deals with that a fair bit.
and
Like there's always going to be matches to be played.
and we're gonna still be working heavily over the next 2 weeks to make sure that we get this right. We're like everything in here. I'm working with experts and making sure that I'm not overloading myself, and also making sure that we have people in place that are looking at this from good angles. So we'll have that done well. The general idea, like he said, will be a round robin, and we'll have contingency plans if we do have issues with having a lot of teams. I would welcome having 15 teams. That would be fun. Next up, I'm going to add something, and we got three more, 2 short sections and one. This is the final kind of long section. We are going to be using a scoreboard approach to determine rankings after battle results and these type of things. Dyer and I have got it pretty figured out on how we're going to be handling that. Basically, one way or another, on the challenge board we're going to be using. So we've used challenge before in the past for the bracket. They've since added a lot of really awesome features, but basically the idea is going to be that you'll have some basic system of wins and losses, or that you beat that team, and that team, and at the end of the day, we'll be able to take our time with it too, because the second weekend, we'll get into that in a second. But basically, the idea is that we'll have flexibility, and we'll have it predetermined ahead of time. But it'll be that all of your participation will be into consideration, and at the end, we'll have a simple system sitting there that. Regardless if it'll be point, we're looking at a few different things. We're looking at either just straight up wins and losses. We're looking at this team beat this team. We're also maybe looking at points. We've got 3 different proposals we're looking at, so we'll get back to you on the details on that. But we'll have that set ahead of time, and at the end, you'll be able to track along. Team Awesome has 3 victories, 1 loss, and they've played these teams so far. And then at the end of it, we're going to invite the top 4 teams based on the placements from our system that we come up with, and they'll be invited to come back for a second weekend if they can make it, and if not, we'll take the next teams, the highest ranking team that's able to show up. And the second weekend will be a old school bracket, 1, 2, 3, 4, and there'll be semifinals, best 2 out of 3, best 3 out of 5. We're still working that part, and then the finals will be best 3 out of 5, and you'll sit there. The format will still be, the actual games will still be similar to the first weekend, but that'll give us a chance to slow down and take our time on the 14th. Matches will still go fast. We'll still have low down times, but when it comes to determining the champion, we won't have to feel extremely rushed at the end, and we'll have time to build it up, and it'll be its own exciting thing. And so, getting there, Dire Wolf, tell us about the awesomeness of challenge and your initial ideas while we're still working out which of the specific proposals we're going to use, how we are going to get our top 4.
Yeah, good thing is the challenge really makes almost all of the sort of scorekeeping and also figuring out where you're going to play like much simpler. Challenge basically, like there's a feature which shows you, it's just called stations. It's meant mostly for like if you're in a fighting game and you're like at a venue tournament with like lots of different screens, lots of different setups. In this case, we could have those stations be like individual 3v3 servers, and challenge will automatically allocate where there's available space, and it will say which teams can currently play each other because they haven't played each other before, etc., etc. So like during the tournament, ideally like every team captain would just be like watching the board, and they will be able to see like instantly who they're going to be playing and when, and on what servers. So for the refs, like they basically only need to show up when the teams are in place and they want somebody to verify that the other team has built what they said they were going to build. Match turnover should be really fast. The only thing that might take a little bit of time is like the banning process, and ideally, if like the map list and Siebel restriction list is fairly short, like maybe I don't know 8 or 9 at most, picked from the large rotation that we were talking about. Again, this is still under discussion, but yeah, the idea being that if you have like a relatively small map list and Siebel restriction list to draw from, knowing where you want to be, getting the server, like switching the map and all this sort of stuff can be done by the players. The refs only have to be there for like a minute or so at most. They can get pinged on TeamSpeak. Planning should be way easy. Doesn't have to be any waiting because, like, again, if the TOs are reporting when matches are happening, when victories happen, then you'll instantly know how you're doing, who you're playing, and when.
And so now we move to our last 2 topics, and then we'll finish this off with the Q&A with the gallery. We are currently, we've been working on this, probably the better part of about 6 weeks now, just on and off, talking, discussing things. So we're set, we're ready to go. We're just working on the finishing touches with some of this. But Dyer, this is definitely one of those things that we've been thinking about for a while, and we're taking our time working well on it. You've been a big help. The other people that we've been involving have been a big help. But the thing that we're making sure this time is not all on 1 or 2 people, so that when something comes up, because there's always a challenge in a tournament, that we can address it pretty quickly. But we're looking for some volunteers along the line, certainly people to play, but we're also looking for some people that can help us out. As Dyer said, the ref jobs aren't as involved as they used to be, but we still kind of need a few people to sit on some of the servers for a little while and help with some of the administration and reporting the scores. We're also looking for a assistant scorekeeper, somebody that we can notify me to update challenge. This battle just ended. This is the result, so I just quick update that, and then I can tell them, okay, that team's done playing them. This is the next team up. We're looking for some announcers to help us. We already have a couple of people coming in, but we're always looking to do 2 announcing teams. We're going to have a YouTube channel. We're going to have a Twitch channel, and we're also going to be recording videos, different angles, and getting a lot of coverage. We're going to be looking for maybe 1 or 2 people to help us be mercenary team captains. So if there's a time that players are more than welcome to show up during the event and come on as individual players, we'll get you on a team. But we're looking for maybe 1 or 2 people that can you for the next 2 or 3 maps be the drop commander for this team, and just somebody veteran that can provide some strategy and kind of help make the experience competitive and fun. And then we're just we're looking, honestly, at this point, feedback and ideas, Discord, email, TeamSpeak, the forums, other places. This tournament is for you. We are working together. We are working together with lots of people. The experts, I'm relying on the experts this time around, and I'm just trying to act kind of as an organizing force to keep things running smoothly. So if you are maybe interested in helping out for part of the tournament or all of the tournament on the 14th or the 21st, get a hold of us in the next 2 weeks via any way that you want, that you can, and we'll gladly appreciate some of that. We already have, I think, enough people to run it relatively smoothly, but we're always looking to get a few more people to make sure that it's extra smooth. So Dyer, definitely some room out there for people to come participate, even if they don't necessarily feel like playing.
Absolutely. There's a few people who I think will be hopefully helping us with that in time when they get here. But I've been poking them repeatedly, and they've expressed interest. So we'll see how that goes.
Final topic before the Q&A is how to play. First off, we do need voice communications. Microphone is not entirely required. It's probably highly recommended, but we have had people that are not acting as the commander be able to participate. We're pretty laid back. We're pretty friendly. We do have a couple of requirements that people kind of follow instructions from the organizers and be a good teammate, but I don't think we've had too much problems with that. If you want to participate, teamspeak.com/downloads, and you need the free TeamSpeak client, and then you can I'll put all these, this will all be in the show notes, and we'll make links, but you can point it to lowercase in your connection box in TeamSpeak, W-R, lowercase W-R, or w-r.no-ip.org, and show up around 18:30 on the 14th, maybe a little bit early if you're looking for a team, so we can get people organized, and just show up in the 3v3 ready room, I think we'll be calling it, and we'll get everybody organized and play. We are asking as much as possible that people try to show up a bit early before the start time, or not too late after the start time. We are still debating whether we're going to allow teams to participate past a cutoff time, and if we do, not have a cutoff time, it's very likely that teams that show up too late into the proceedings will probably be not able to qualify for the top 4. But that's how to play. Skill level doesn't matter. If you're out there to learn, or you already have Living Legends, we'd be happy to have you out there. And some of the teams that have been the most skilled and some of the teams that have been the least skilled have come back and told me that when this has been done right, they've had a lot of fun. And Dyer, that's what we're trying to do, is provide a fun atmosphere for everybody.
Hi. Sure.
Certainly competitive out there, but Dyer, room for almost anybody in the community to come out and play, and I think it'll be a lot of fun. So that's it before the Q&A. We'll have some more information, a stream of information, as we finalize a few of the more minute details coming up, but I look forward to this being a lot of fun. It's going to be a community effort, and I think it's we wouldn't be doing it if we didn't believe that it could be a really awesome thing. So whether you watch, whether you volunteer, whether you come play, be involved, the Living Legends community is awesome, and we're really looking forward to hosting this as one of the premier events of the year, and we really hope that you guys have fun with it, and we really hope that it's a nice, smooth running event for everybody. All right, Dyer, anything you wanted to close with?
Nope, I think that's about all.
All right, I'll open it up to a couple of minutes of questions from the gallery if anybody has anything, and we'll do our best to answer. So you've heard the presentation. Any thoughts, comments, or concerns from the gallery? Going once, going twice.
So that's a good thing.
Crickets.
No, straightforward enough. I mean, it's all going to pan out once you actually get the spreadsheets and everything going.
Yep. Okay, that's. I'll take that as a question. We will be using the drop calculator for just keeping track, a paper record of things, but it won't have to be filled out in real time, and it's not going to slow us down if you're ready for the next match because you already know what you're using. So those will be available. Those will be more of a record-keeping device and something to just help us keep track of things. Challenge will take care of the metagame for us, and the refs will certify things. But the calcs, I've been told, have been useful to kind of bam, bam, bam. So. All right. Well, on behalf of Direwolf, on behalf of the what I'd like to joke as the events council that's been meeting over the past number of weeks to be putting this together, we look forward to putting this on, and we look forward to hopefully seeing a lot of you on the 14th. Stay tuned to the Mechwarrior Living Legends Discord, to the forums. If you watch the channels, YouTube channels that this podcast will be on, and anywhere else. Direwolf, any other places where people can look for information on this or follow along?
I think you mentioned all of them, but if you're on Discord, you can also always poke me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm CJF Direwolf2K on Discord, and me on the Living Legends one.
Yep. I have many people that pass messages along to me, so you can get a hold of me there. And I'm active on the MechMaster forums and on the Living Legends forums as well. If you use those methods, otherwise just bug Direwolf or somebody else, and they'll get a hold of me. And I'd like to thank our surprisingly quiet gallery down there for sitting with us. Any other questions as we close this out?
Either the silence is either a very good or a very bad sign, and we'll find out soon enough, I'm sure.
Yeah. All right. All right. Well,
There we go.
Well, we'll have more information and more promotional stuff coming along, and mechmaster.com, and the first article there has 3v3 tournament for a fast way, but it's also posted practically everywhere else in the Living Legends universe. It's on Discord somewhere as well, and so we'll have info for you, and hopefully this keeps you informed and answers some of the questions that some of the teams that might be participating or people that want to follow along. And please do contact us beforehand if you have some creative criticism, some comments, or just to say we're doing a good job. We'll appreciate it all, but we're still going to be very much listening to the community going into this. And Dyer, I'm excited. Are you excited?
Very.
Is everybody else excited here?
Yeah.
I'm excited. It's going to be a blast.
All right.
That should be.
On behalf of everybody, thank you all for staying up late with us while we recorded this. Everybody have fun out there, and we will see you for the 2020 3v3 event November 14th starting at 18:30 UTC, and be sure to follow along as we try to get a champion on the second weekend bracket on the 21st at 18:30 UTC. mechlivinglegends.net. It's a free game, not free to play. This has been Duelist Direwolf and the gallery, and we're signing off. Thank you, everybody, and have a good night.
Have a